A lot of us are descendants from King James the First. Doesn't mean we are like him, and it doesn't mean anything. Well, I don't know why people wouldn't want to be like him. He was a decent king. Like, there's a lot of layers to this that I don't, at least biblically, that I don't think people consider. So one is that, first of all, King James the First did we've just been told he was this horrible, awful king, but what he was really trying to do was unite Christianity, because there were all these factions of Christianity, and the Vatican was making things worse because they felt they should be in control of God's word. But the thing is that King James the First wasn't against the Pilgrims coming here, and what he's given a bad name for is because he believed in the divine right of kings, which the divine right of kings meant he only had to answer to God. Now you can say, that's, who does he think he is? Well, biblically there's some truth to it. So there's that end of it. There's also the biblical truth that God wanted people that wanted out from under kings, but they, like, just like he was mad at Israel because they demanded a king, and God gave them one, but he was not happy about it, because again, it was about maturing to a place where you no longer needed to have a ruler over you, but that God was going to be your ruler. And I think the founders of the people, that the pilgrims that came, that fled to America, they came very much not hating the King James, but I think it, even though I don't think it was him that was a bad king, he played a different role. And so did the Pilgrims. The Pilgrims had matured enough, biblically speaking, faith-wise, and that was what God was always looking for, was people that had biblically matured to where they realized, you know what, I don't want to be under a king anymore. I know what God expects from me, and yes, you still have to have rules, but God, the minute Israel said we want a king over us, what they were saying is we don't want God as our king. So that's what infuriated God. So even though God supported some of the kings, and many of them he didn't, but if you put a king over you, it meant that you were not mature enough to be without one. America was the land that decided, with the people that came here, that no, we're going to be we're ready to be without a king. And a lot of it was, King James the First was doing what he could to try to unite all the factions of Christianity, and that's what brought in the King James Bible. It says here that it was all these different forces of Christianity that were coming against him, mainly from the Catholic sect. But King James gathered a group of scholars and theologians who worked diligently for several years to translate the Bible into English. They drew upon previous English translations as well as original Hebrew and Greek texts. Their goal was to create a Bible that was faithful to the original meaning of the scriptures while being accessible to the common people. I mean, he literally was, I would say, in God's eyes, was one of the great kings, because it's because of him doing this that Jesus' message was spread from one end of the earth to the other. That's huge, because that's what Jesus wanted. When the King James version of the Bible was completed in 1611, it quickly gained popularity among English-speaking Christians. Its language and style made it captivating to readers, and its religious significance elevated it to become one of the most widely read and cherished translations of the Bible. Moreover, King James Version has had a profound impact on Christianity. It has helped spread the teachings of Jesus Christ to countless people around the world. Its enduring legacy lies in its ability to communicate the message of hope, love, and salvation to individuals from all walks of life. It's huge. So, I mean, to say, not all people, I would want to be like him. But there's this idea in America that he was this horrible king, but never looking at it from what he was dealing with from his angle. And yet then the other rumor that has spread far and wide in America, and it's bullshit, is that he wrote his own version of the Bible, which he absolutely did not. So the translation of the Bible that we know as the King James Version was a collaborative effort inspired by King James I's desire to make the scriptures accessible and unified. Its significance goes beyond just words on a page. It has shaped the Christian faith and influenced language and cultures for centuries. One of the major religious conflicts during this time was the divide between Protestant and Catholics. King James himself was a Protestant, but he faced opposition from Catholics who believed in the authority of the Pope. This conflict resulted in tensions and often violence between the two groups. Another conflict during King James' reign was the descent of the Puritans. The Puritans were a group of Protestants who sought to purify the Church of England from what they saw as residual Catholic practices. They faced persecution and often clashed with King James over religious reforms. King James sought to bring together different factions within Christianity. His commissioning of the King James Version helped to foster unity among English-speaking Christians by providing a single authorized translation. He aimed to bridge the theological divides and bring people together around the same sacred text. So, I mean, he's just been given a bad rap as far as I'm concerned because he was trying to do what he saw as right. And he changed the world forever because of the King James Bible. And then because of all of this, the Catholics tried to blow him up in Parliament. There were all these people that wanted him killed. And he also, he actually approved the Pilgrims coming here. He just wanted to unifying all the different Christianity sects. That's what he was tired of dealing with, was all the fighting amongst everyone. That said, I also think that it worked out the way God wanted it to, because God was looking for people that would break away from the kings, that felt mature enough that that we don't need the Pope to tell us what to do. We don't need the king to tell us what to do. We want God to be the leader. And that's what the Pilgrims represented. So I think both things can be true. I think that King James I was a decent king, and he's responsible for spreading Jesus's word the farthest, and God would put him in the area of one of the greatest kings ever. And I believe that the Pilgrims coming here were also what God wanted, because he brought them through that treacherous journey to come here, and it was all because they wanted to worship the way they believed that was right. So in the end, I think that both things are true. I think that King James I, even though there was a ton of bad kings, ton of them, which that's the lesson for right now, in my opinion, is like, to many Western nations, do you still want to be under a king? What does it serve you? Like Canada, what does it serve you to be loyal to the crown that just disregards you, or to the people of Greenland that know that Denmark and their kingship doesn't do anything to help them? And I think that maybe we're now in an age when people are ready to say, no, we've matured enough and realize that we no longer need to have kings over us. Maybe the world will move to that place where it realizes that there's only one true king, God himself.